One, two. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 Annual General Meeting for Lancashire County Cricket Club. I formally declare the meeting open, and I'll now hand over to our President, Sir Howard Bernstein, who will chair the meeting from here on.
Thanks very much, Lee. Good evening, everyone. It's customary at the start of our AGM to make reference to the members, the friends that we've lost since our AGM 12 months ago. 71 members have passed on since then. Two players, Peter Greenwood, who many of you will remember, and Sonny Ramadan. I certainly remember Sonny Ramadan, who played for us for 2 seasons in the 60s. I would also ask all of us to think of Maurice Watkins as well. Maurice was an elected board member at Lancashire for many years. He gave us the benefit of his huge experience in sports administration, the law and governance, after really a lifetime's contribution to sport at every level in this country. And what's also not widely known is Maurice was also one of the most significant fundraisers for charitable donations in the Northwest. And many of us worked very hard with him when he set up the bursary at Manchester Grammar School, which kids from all different backgrounds take advantage of today, and also what he did to support the growth and development of Manchester Children's Hospital. So we extend our sincere condolences to all the families and friends of members and to Maurice. And as a token of our respect, could I just ask us to stand for a moment's reflection? Thank you. Can I ask the Secretary to read out any apologies we've received?
Yeah, board members Rachel Downey and Andrew Flintoff have provided their apologies, along with former Chairman Bob Bennett, Senior Vice President Geoffrey Schindler, Vice President Alice Bennett, and Georgina and Jill Bennett. Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes of the AGM, which are held on the 27th of May last year, have been circulated. No questions have been received in advance. People having seen those minutes when they were sent out. Can I ask for your approval that these be agreed as a correct record? Thank you. There are no matters arising relating to those minutes. So can I now get into the substantive business of the meeting and invite our club chairman, Andy Hanson, to address us. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Sir Howard. Before I come on to my brief speech, there's one thing that is a real pleasure to do at the AGM, and that is to give out the award for the annual medal in memory of David Hodgkiss, which was something we introduced at the last AGM, in recognition of outstanding service to the club during the previous 12 months. And it gives me great pleasure this year that I'm going to present it to a member of our stadium events team who has worked tirelessly, incredibly competently and reliably during tough times that we've had with COVID and the whole operational impact that that has had on the business. And this is someone who everyone here at Lancashire has relied on. She has delivered time and time again, especially around the test match that never happened, especially around the 100 and especially around the concert when the Cortinas played in November. Since those events, it's someone who's been promoted to head of department within the stadium events team. And it gives me great pleasure. And I should add, she does all this as a working mum and definitely puts her job right at the top there with being a mum. So it gives me great pleasure to present the David Hodgkiss Award to Alice Macready, Head of Stadium Events. Yeah, I just want to introduce Sarah Tompkins from our board, who's just going to say a few words about someone who's stepping down from the nominations committee. Sarah.
Good afternoon. On behalf of everyone here at Lancashire Cricket, we would like to offer our huge thanks to Dave Taylor, who has been an amazing support for me and also the NOMCOs for over 9 years now. Dave, I'm so sorry I can't be there in person to present a little token of our gratitude for all your work and support. I'm in the States at the moment with work, so apologies for that. I will catch up with you soon and we can watch some cricket together. But your contribution to the club over that period of time has been invaluable, and you have helped steer NOMCO and from its inception and help us get to where we are now. We've all thoroughly enjoyed working with you, and we look forward to seeing you back at Emirates Old Trafford very soon. Take care and thanks so much.
Good evening. I'll try and keep this relatively brief, but before I get going, I just want to make sure everyone's aware who's here on stage. We've obviously got Sarah in New York. I think we've got Les on this screen. Les Platt's our treasurer, who I think is in Italy. And I thank them for joining whilst away on business and holiday, respectively. John Abrahams, obviously, is a former captain of the club, needs no introduction. James Sheridan, who works tirelessly both as a director of Lancashire Cricket, but also as a director of the Manchester Originals, and does an awful lot of work for us in the background as well. And someone who really does deliver as a director. Lee and Sir Howard you know about, and Daniel as chief exec you know about. And I would like to introduce in the audience Navin Singh, who is someone who we have an election for later, but who is joining the board, hopefully, if you all vote for him, and has got a massive experience in the world of digital media and media rights in sports from both sides of the Atlantic. So someone who we welcome. So Navin, welcome on board. Just want to start, by saying it's good to see you when we've had such a good start to the season. Obviously, a 10-wicket victory in Kent was a fantastic start, and then getting Gloucestershire all out. I arrived in the car park at 118 for none, thinking, oh, this is going to be a gloomy AGM tonight. And now with them all out for 252, that's at least made things a bit more pleasant. Just a shame that George Balderson's slight lack of experience showed through on that last ball, but hopefully we can go on and build a good innings tomorrow. But good start for Mark, Glenn and the team. And I think what was really exciting last week was to see the number of contributions from so many different players in that 11 with the bat and the ball. So a great start. Can I also just say thank you to you, our members, for all the support you've shown us over the last 2 years. It's been a really tough time, I think, for everyone. And running a sports business and a leisure business in this climate has been difficult, without doubt. And your commitment and loyalty and support of the club has been fantastic and enabled us to move forward in a positive way, even during the toughest of times. So many, many thanks for that. I also want to thank Daniel Gidney and his team, who have worked really hard during those times to make sure the club keeps its head well above water. And actually more than that, actually driving forward the strategy, which I'm going to discuss in a minute, when there were so many other tough things to manage and handle. So Daniel, on behalf of everyone on the board and the senior leadership team, thank you very much for all your commitment and dedication too. So I just want to go over a bit of the strategy of the club. We've had a few questions about this that came in, and I'm going to focus on 4 areas. I want to talk about cricket, obviously, because that is the primary reason we're all here. I want to talk about the development of Emirates Old Trafford and other developments that are going on in the background. I want to talk about governance within the context of the ECB and cricket in general, and just reference quickly the commercial side of the business. And those 4 elements together really form the heart of the strategy of cricket. So I'll start off with men's cricket. We're looking forward to a good season. I think we all want to win a trophy. I think that message has definitely been delivered to Mark and Glenn and co. I think we've got a squad that's capable of doing that. I think a lot of people are saying that in the Red Ball game we've definitely got a great chance of that, and let's hope we can go one better than we went last year when we came runners-up in the county championship. It's great as well to see some of our players, and this is one of our objectives, to see so many of our players progressing into the international ranks. Saqib and Matt Parkinson in the recent England Test squad. I think we all feel that Josh Bohannon was unlucky to miss out. And again, as we look forward to this year, we've got some great young players in the fold who are beginning to deliver. And that for us is incredibly exciting, and it's what this club has always been about. Also in England under-19s, we had 3 players in that World Cup final team, in Tom Aspinall, George Bell and Josh Boyden. And again, another good reflection on the pathway. And Mark in particular has put so much effort into developing that pathway along with the Lancashire Foundation team. And it's good to see that work paying off. I think we're also excited with some of the players we've brought in. Phil Salt is clearly a class act, both on and off the field, and someone we feel very good about, who's added not only on the pitch, but he's added something to the dressing room. Hassan Ali, I think seeing 6 wickets out there today was good, and you can see what a great player he is. But again, he's more than just a good player. He's clearly someone of great character who's going to bring an awful lot to the dressing room as well. And Tim David as well, who's shown himself to be a loyal and decent addition as well. And then we come on to women's cricket, and I think one of the things that we all feel here at the board, and I certainly feel very passionate about, is that we want to develop women's cricket in Lancashire and in the Northwest in particular. And that's one of the reasons we decided at the board level to take the women's team on tour with the men's team to Dubai, and doing that as the first county to actually make that happen. And I was out there in Dubai for a few days, and I saw what it meant to the women's team, but I also saw what they gave back to our commercial partners and our sponsors, and they really took it very seriously. They added a dimension that was special, and I feel very confident that we're going to do more things like that, and we're going to help build that team. And one of the things I want to work with the ECB on more than anything is making sure that the women's game develops in a way that allows us to drive it forward and contribute more than we have been able to. It was great to see 3 Lancashire players in that World Cup final team, squad. Katie Cross and Sophie Eccleston clearly in the team, and Emma Lamb in the squad. And although they did get beaten in the final by a strong Australian team, they did really well. I think the continual improvements, we're trying to provide more players in the women's squad on full-term contracts so they can actually work full-time as players, not have to do jobs and be cricket players. We want to do that faster than the ECB rules have been allowing us to do it, but we are committed to doing that. We also want to make sure that we get as many women from the cricket side trained as coaches, and again we're pushing hard to get women coaches developed in this county, and that's particularly exciting. And I think, I mean, we all have our views on the 100. I'll probably best if I keep mine quiet. But the one success story without doubt of the 100 last year was the success of the women's game and how it drew audiences into cricket. And I think that's something we will support and continue to support. And we're looking forward to some double-headed fixtures at Emirates Old Trafford this summer. Moving on to development of the ground and other development matters. You'll have seen today, you can't miss it, that the new project has started to replace what I think was called the Red Rose Suite, which was, for me, was the old press box, and to replace it with a 1,025-seater stand, a new 100-bed extension to the hotel, new facilities including a museum, a heritage centre, a new retail store, a new ticket office, and member facilities, importantly, in that new development and new building. And I think that work is now underway. The building has to be ready and the stand has to be ready in time for the Ashes. And Daniel is very aware of that because that's how we start paying back the significant investment that we're making in that development. But it's very exciting, I think, to see that final bit of the stadium moving on and being developed, and the plans have been good. And I just want to give you all assurance that the development committee here at Lancashire has some incredibly experienced people on it, led by Rachel Downey, who has got an awful lot of experience, and it's really comforting for me as the chair, and it should be for you as the members to know that we've got some very experienced development heads in that room when we make some tough and big decisions. And then the other thing which I'm absolutely committed to, and I think I said this last year, is the development of a second permanent home for Lancashire. And we have got an agreement with Lancashire County Council to develop a new cricket centre at Farrington near Preston, to include 2 full-size cricket ovals, training facilities, a pavilion with a gym, change rooms and hospitality space. And we're moving forward on that project. We were having discussions today at the board meeting about actually creating the pitch and the wicket and making sure they're ready in time for 2025 season. So we will move towards a permanent second home in the heart of Lancashire. And I think it'd be difficult to argue that that's not in the heart of Lancashire. And the image shows you what we're aspiring to. So it's a great project, and I think if we achieve this, it will give a home for women's cricket, it will be a development centre for youth cricket, for community cricket. It's something that we feel can add an awful lot to this county. Probably something that should have happened years ago, but it is something we're now working on to develop. So both of these developments are really important to the long-term success of the county from a cricket perspective, from a commercial perspective, and just in terms of us moving on and showing that we're continuing to progress and will be at the forefront of county cricket as we move forward. I just want to talk quickly on the areas of governance and importantly on the area of discrimination in cricket. I think we're all aware of the issues that arose in the last 12 months. Obviously, difficult issues in Yorkshire and other counties in the area of racial discrimination in particular. And it's something that we're taking incredibly seriously as a board. We can't pretend that everything's perfect. We have to actually start addressing issues, and it's one of the main topics that we want to talk about at the board and as a club. We want to be at the forefront of creating a diversity, equality and inclusion strategy at all levels of the county, at professional cricket level, at the coaching level, at the grassroots level, and within the employment at Lancashire Cricket. It's something that we have a strategy for now in terms of what we're doing. It's something that we are reporting on regularly at the board level, and we want to be seen, as we always have been, I think, in this area, to be a leader, but we need to do something very proactive, and we will continue to drive forward our thinking, working with the ECB, working with other counties, but also working on with ourselves to make sure we're as good as we can be. And Daniel is leading that on behalf of the executive team, and it's something that we will continue to drive forward. But that doesn't ignore the fact that there's an awful lot of great stuff going on across the communities within Lancashire. I think the Lancashire Foundation and also individual elements of cricket across the county are really doing a lot to include people from all different backgrounds across the county. So we shouldn't think everything's broken, but there's always things that we can do better in this area, and we will continue to do so. I think we all felt that Azim Rafiq's testimony to the Select Committee of the Commons was disturbing and distressing. and that showed that there were issues that needed addressing, and they needed addressing at every level of cricket. But I can assure you we're taking it seriously, and the ECB and the other counties are taking it seriously, and we will not just print words on paper, we'll make sure that all parts of this cricket club are addressing these serious issues, from recruitment all the way up to how we manage and operate the business. Another area of governance that's important is how the ECB is governed. And you may have read stuff in the media about some of the governance proposals that's going on within the ECB. I just want to start by saying the issue that I, as a chair, and other members of the Lancashire board have with the way the ECB is governed today is we don't feel that the communication from the ECB is inclusive and includes the first-class counties to the extent it should do. It's one of the few sports governing bodies in the world that doesn't have representation from its members on the board. It is normal, if you look at the Football Association, the Rugby Union, my main role as the British Olympic Association, we all have our members properly represented in the boardroom. Now, for some reason, cricket took a decision to not have that, and it's led to this vacuum that's been created in terms of communication. So we are keen that first-class county cricket is properly represented in the EC boardroom to stop issues arising and to make sure that we can be on top of things as they arise and drive forward opportunities. So we're pushing quite hard on that. The ECB have got a consulting company called Porter's working on a governance review, and we're working with them, but we're also trying to drive that agenda to make sure that first-class game is properly represented at the ECB level. You'll be aware that there's a performance review being led by Andrew Strauss at the moment, and that could have wider implications for county cricket. Most likely it will do. We want to be at the table when those decisions are being taken to make sure that we're addressing the issues, to make sure we have the chance to consult with you as members so that you can be part of any discussion on the future of the game. And I think that's important. So that's where we're at with the ECB. But there's a lot of good stuff going on in terms of our relationship with the ECB on the commercial side, on the media side, and there are good relations. Clearly, they need a new chair, and they need improved leadership, both in the cricket area and in the commercial area. I'm optimistic they'll sort some of these issues out, but we need to be at the table making those decisions with them, and we are pushing hard for that. Just the final strand of the strategy I just want to touch on is the commercial side, and I think as a club, we have a very strong commercial function, something that we should be proud of. I was just out in Dubai talking with the guys about the relationship with Emirates and meeting the team at Emirates Airlines, including the main marketing head at Emirates, and we are moving forward in a very positive way in terms of a longer-term future relationship with Emirates, and that's something we should all be excited about. For a brand like that to be associated with Lancashire is important because it provides a halo effect for other sponsors and other partners to want to come on board, and that is exciting. We're also making good progress in terms of new kit sponsors, etc. And we just want to strengthen that commercial function, but there's a lot of good stuff happening. Our partners, many of them came with us to Dubai, and they had a fantastic time, but more importantly, their message back to me as chair was that the relationship and the way they're looked after at Lancashire is incredibly positive. So thank you to the team for all the work you do there. So we've got a busy year ahead in 2022. Obviously, it's nice to have domestic cricket back in front of larger audiences. No restriction on the T20 Blast crowds like last year. So we're looking forward to the Blast. We're looking forward to more county championship days like today, hopefully with the sun shining, so that we can get off to a good start without the rain interfering. We've also got two one-day internationals and the South Africa Test match coming up here at Old Trafford. And then for the non-cricket side, we've got 4 concerts. We had 5 concerts, the Foo Fighters, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Killers, and 2 Harry Styles. But the Foo Fighters, unfortunately, due to the death of their drummer, have pulled out. And we have to cover that. I mean, that is a revenue stream that is important to the club, and we have to now cover that as we go forward. But the business is in good shape, and I think we've seen us come through COVID. Yes, we did well with insurance, but we're in good, solid shape, and I think that, again, is credit to the management team. So that's it from me. I said I'd welcome Navin. Just so you know a bit more about Navin, he is now the commercial director of the Football Association. He's got a ton of experience in US sports, most recently in golf, and knows an awful lot about streaming and digital media. And I think you'll all realise how important that is. We're doing a good job of it here at Lancashire, but for those of you who, like me, had to watch last week's game on the Kent stream, it wasn't quite the quality that one would hope, and I think we need to work together. What we're doing on that is working with the ECB to create a central platform for streaming digital media to a much better standard across all the counties, so that we can sit in our offices or sitting rooms and watch a better quality of service. That's it from me. We'll be taking questions at the end. Hopefully I've addressed some of those questions in my speech, but also I'm very happy to take questions at the end of this meeting. So thank you for your support, and I look forward to a good year ahead. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andy. Can I ask Mark to come forward and present his report? Mark Chilton, ladies and gentlemen.
Be a bit shorter now, given that Andy's taken most of it there. Sorry, the chairman's taken most of it. But I'll try and be creative as we go along. It's really the first opportunity I've had to stand in front of the members since my appointment as Director of Cricket Performance. I'd firstly like to thank Paul Allett. I don't know if in the room, he did say he was going to come, for all the work he'd done prior to me getting this role. The last 2 years have been challenging for everyone, but Paul was able to ensure the cricket department was left in a better place than when he took the role on 5 years ago. As many of you know, Lancashire cricket has been an integral part of my life for many years now. It seems a long, long time ago that I made my debut back in 1997. It's a huge honour for me to lead on the cricket department. I still pinch myself every time I drive through the gates and think how lucky I am to work at such a great place. And I can guarantee that I'll give my all to the cause, and hopefully, as the chairman alluded to, that will include bringing some silverware back to the club. I'd just like to spend the next 5 minutes or so giving you a brief update on men's and women's cricket. I know chairman's already done a little bit, but there's probably a little bit more to add. Followed by a little bit of background on the outground, and then maybe a little bit more information on the Farrington project. So with the men's cricket, it's been a very productive pre-season, which has, I think, set us up really well for a big push over the first phase of this season. Taking 20 wickets is obviously crucial to winning championship games, and we feel like our bowling attack is as good as any out there and well prepared to give ourselves the best chance of doing that. It was great to see the impact of Hassan and Matthew last week on what was a very flat wicket down at Kent. And obviously Hassan's had another great day today. He's fitted in fantastically well in the short period of time he's been with us. Not only bringing a lot of energy to the group, but also he's also engaged in some early community projects we're very grateful for as well. So I think he's enjoying himself. He's certainly acting like he is, and it was fantastic to see him bowl again today. Great to see Jimmy and Saqib out there as well today. Obviously, that's quite a difficult thing to manage at the minute, because we're not quite sure what players are going to be involved with England during the summer. And Phil Salt, again, echoing what the chairman said, he's really settled into the environment extremely well. Looks a high-quality player, a really good character, and he was obviously very unfortunate to miss out on a debut 100 last week. So let's hope he gets going again tomorrow. He's also a guy, having flicked at a lot of batters, and he's a guy I really enjoy watching play, so hopefully he'll bring you a lot of entertainment over the year. I suppose overall we feel like we have a well-balanced squad with good depth and different options available to us to hopefully be competitive across all competitions. We're still considering options. I know some of you will probably be thinking about this. We're still considering options for an overseas player during the middle part and late part of the season. As I just mentioned there, it's really quite difficult to predict what players and what the needs of the team might be during this period. We've got a lot of people in and around the England environment, and a degree of uncertainty around selection that means we're not quite sure what players we might need. It could be a batter, it could be a spin bowler, it could be a fast bowler. So at the minute we're still sort of in a holding pattern with that and just exploring options. And again, the Future Tours programme makes availability of sort of quality overseas players quite challenging. But I can assure you that we're as a team of coaches and managed cricket management, we're on the pulse with that all the time and trying to ensure that we get the right person at the right time. What we have done is, and some of you will have seen Joe Many training, is we've registered Joe Many as an overseas player. I don't want to go into too much detail, but he's finished playing in Australia and he now lives over here. And we've registered him and going to offer him a very short-term deal as a potential option for us during this middle phase of the season. He's been training with us since February. He's making really good progress. He's a fantastic character, which we knew from when he played back with us 4 or 5 years ago. And he gives us a bit of comfort on this in this situation, depending how things play out. We're allowed, I don't know whether you know, we're allowed to register 3 overseas players at any one time and play 2. So that's how we can sort of navigate our way through that. We're all looking forward to the arrival of Tim David for the T20 Blast campaign. Given the Mumbai Indians' poor start in the IPL, we're quite hopeful that he'll arrive for the first game, and that should make him available for the full tournament. He fits the ideal profile of player that we were looking for. He's got an exceptional late over strike rate, and he should add another dimension to the team. And I'm sure you'll agree, a full-strength T20 team at the minute is certainly a mouth-watering prospect. Particularly seeing the form of Joss and Liam over in the IPL, which again I think is something the club should be very proud of. 2 of the leading batters in a global competition like that. Again, you may be aware that England have decided to put 3 fixtures in against the Netherlands right in the middle of the Blast, which is a bit of a disappointment for us. And as you can expect, a lot of those players I've mentioned are right in the mix for selection with that. But we're very hopeful that that's where our strength in depth will allow us to deal with potentially losing some of those players. The 50 over competition, I thought it was a great campaign last year. Actually, I really enjoyed it. I thought we obviously devastated to lose that game here against Essex, but I think that creates a real opportunity for lots of people in the squad. We're going to lose players to the 100 again, but I still have a lot of confidence in that group of players that will be playing in that competition. It creates further opportunities for them, and I'm really quite confident that they can get through to the playoffs and later stages of that competition. So we'll look forward to that. So just moving on to the women's cricket, I thought it'd be quite useful. Well, firstly, it was great for me to, in a similar way to the chairman, it was great for me to spend some time to get to know the staff and players out in Dubai. In my previous role as a coach within the men's environment, we often like ships in the night with the men's and women's players and staff. But that was a real opportunity to start building some relationships there. They played several fixtures against a strong UAE team, and it gave me a good idea of getting to know how that game is played and ultimately what impact I can make in that environment as we move forward. I just thought it would be useful to share a little bit of information so you might understand what is happening this season with the women's cricket. You may be aware of this information, but if not, hopefully it's still useful for me to communicate. So we really have 2 teams that are under our control. We have the county team, Lancashire, and then we have the Thunder, which play in the regional competition. Lancashire are defending Northern champions, and we played our first 2 T20s as part of the county championship on Monday at Northern. Play again this weekend. We beat Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire on Monday, and then the finals day at Northern on the 8th of May. There's the exciting addition of around 10 additional fixtures throughout the season, which will clearly ensure more opportunities to players. The Thunder team is made up of Lancashire, Cheshire and Cumbria, and is one of 8 regions in the elite domestic structure. Currently we have 7 professional players, including 1 fully funded by us, Lancashire Club, and the remaining players are on pay-as-you-play contracts. There are 2 main competitions. The Charlotte Edwards Trophy is the T20 comp, which starts on the 14th of May against the Southern Vipers. There are 3 home T20 fixtures this season, including 2 at Emirates Old Trafford, which are part of double headers alongside the men's fixtures, so there'll be great occasions. And there are 2 other 50 over matches that will be played at Emirates Old Trafford no other venue will host more women's domestic cricket, and along with a pre-season tour, I think this is a clear example of Lancashire being at the forefront of the women's game, and we remain very ambitious to keep driving that forward. So if I just come on to the outground and the Farrington situation, I'm obviously aware of some questions around the outground situation, so I'd just like to give you some context to this. Early into my tenure, following discussions with other exec members, we thought it'd be a useful exercise to formalise the process of playing at outgrounds for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we wanted to ensure that all relevant parties got the opportunity to meet each other and key stakeholders from both sides. And secondly, to ensure clubs who were interested in hosting games had the opportunity to apply for hosting them and giving them a forum where they could present their intentions and plans for such events. We were aware of Southport and Blackpool's interest, and therefore we invited them into Emirates Old Trafford along with Liverpool to discuss the possibilities for the forthcoming season. Liverpool chose not to be involved in this. I became aware that they had suggested it was because we were asking clubs to bid for games, and therefore they had no interest. I made it quite clear that this was a poor choice of words from me at the time. It was never about money, and I communicated that to them immediately. However, they still refused to enter this process. So we therefore proceeded with the meetings, at which we were all suitably impressed with the progress that Southport and Blackpool had made. And we took the decision to take the championship game back to Southport and some white ball cricket to Blackpool. I'm excited about those fixtures. We've got a long history with both those clubs. It's great to see the ambition and progress they're making, and I'm sure there'll be fantastic occasions. And I just hope the weather stays kind for them. The Sedbergh fixture works well for a number of reasons. I know this is a bit of a bone of contention for some of you. It comes immediately after the National Counties fixture versus Cumberland, at which we provide operational support, so it helps logistically. It's an outstanding facility. If you've not been, I would argue it's one of the most picturesque grounds in the country and that I've ever been to. It's fantastic to play at for the players. And finally, and almost most importantly, our relationships with our neighbouring national counties, Cumbria and Cheshire, are extremely important in spreading the game in the northwest. And they also form a key part of our talent ID strategy. There's a number of Lancashire players over the years who've started their cricket in both of these counties, and there's plenty of talent in each of these regions. So although we have no cricket at Liverpool next season, I hope we can look forward to re-engaging with them in the future and continue Lancashire's long history at Aigburth. And finally, on the Farrington project, just a little bit more to add. So the planning application is all but complete. The County Council have applied for the 2 cricket grounds, as you can see on the image, with an associated pavilion, spectator seating, as well as a covered cricket net area, which I believe is really quite unique. I think there's only one other in the country which effectively will allow us to play during the winter. It will be covered but open, if that's a bit bizarre. Open at the sides but covered. It's quite state of the art by all accounts, which again will be a great facility for us. The development will be open for a range of great opportunities from 2025 onwards, providing a first-class facility for all the teams that get to play there. It'll have a similar quality square laid to here, so it'll be able to host everything from men and women's first 11 cricket right through to our development teams, ensuring they have the best facilities to play on. I know there was a question about community use, and the Lancashire Foundation, led by John Murphy, who's in the room tonight, and his team have submitted a community use plan to Lancashire County Council, outlining the programmes that we plan to run. They are in discussions with the local league about the possible use of the ground as an overspill to alleviate pressures on local clubs, and cup competitions at all levels will be factored into the schedule. So I certainly know that to answer one of the questions that came in, as well as being a first-class facility for performance cricket, is also a real push and drive to make it a fantastic community facility as well. So fingers crossed that all goes to plan. So finally, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you all for your support over the coming months in what I hope will be a successful season for us in many ways. It feels a really exciting time to be part of the club, and I'm sure you'll get some fantastic entertainment over the course of the next 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Can I ask Steve Davis, our Operations Director, to provide a development project update? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name's Steve Davis. I'm the Operations Director here at Lancashire Cricket. And I have the great pleasure to talk you through an amazing, exciting new development that you will have all seen the gap that is now there. And I'm about to show you what will be built in the next 12 to 18 months. And it is an extremely exciting project coming forward. So I'm hoping there's going to be some glossy images up there to sort of show you what we're going to do. So from a member's point of view, this is like I say, a really exciting project. So starting sort of from the ground floor upwards, on Brian Statham Way, as you walk down Brian Statham Way, you will be able to see and enter an amazing museum, an interactive experience that will also be the host of our new shop. It'll also be the host of our new ticket space. So it's a multifunctional space, but at the heart of it is a museum that tells a story of Lancashire cricket over the years. And for me, that will be a best-in-class museum space, one that I doubt many sports clubs will be able to do. We're going to do this in a way that will really capture the heart and imagination of the club. As you work your way up from that space onto a raised viewing area, into an amazing restaurant and members space. So if you can look at the image there, clearly you can see the point, you can see the pavilion, you see our current 150-bed hotel, and to the right-hand side of that, the sort of the grey-silver space is a 100-bed hotel. So starting with suites at the top, working its way down through multiple floors of the hotel. And the one that really looks over the space that we should really get excited about is our new member space, our restaurant space. So that is a space that will fit circa 175 seated area, 175 restaurants and leather seats outside the front. And that's due to open summer of next year, I think, as Chairman said, just in time for the Ashes. So the view you've got there is on Brian Statham Way. So you can imagine your left-hand side as you're looking at that would be the metro station walking down Brian Statham Way. So the doors on the front are the museum space I've talked about. So you'll enter this space. It'll be a shop plus a museum. So the best way I can describe it for those that have ever been to Planet Hollywood or Hard Rock Cafe, if you haven't, I wouldn't urge you to go, but maybe just have a look at that online. But that's the kind of thing we're trying to get to from there. And then a level above is the restaurant. Now this space is only really possible through funding. So part of this funding will come from the National Lottery funding, and part of this is through commercial investment. And we've been very fortunate to strike some really good deals with some brilliant partners in Corinthians and Sports Breaks. And without that lottery funding, without that commercial investment, we simply wouldn't have been able to build a space like this. And hopefully you're all looking at this in the same excitement that I do, as just an amazing addition to Emirates Old Trafford. The next slide is a video, and you're about to see conceptual designs of our member space, our restaurant. So please take it as that. It is a concept. It's right in that design stage at the moment. It's about a 1.5 minute video, but you'll get to see the idea of what we're trying to do. And hopefully when you look at this, you will see we're trying to create something that's very different. It talks and hints. It's like a piece of rock that's running through the core of it is cricket, but on top of that it's on trend, it's cool, it's relevant. So if we can play the video, please. So hopefully you can sort of see where we're trying to get to with that, and I just echo that it's concept at the moment, and our plan, working with the MRG on this space, working with the MRG on the downfloor spaces, to create that look and feel that is cricket running through it, but is really cool and really edgy as well. So the images you're looking at now, the final images I'm about to talk to you about, are the interactive museum and the retail shop space. So you can see there through the images, we're trying to create a space that, again, just has cricket running through it, has Emmett Old Trafford and Lancashire cricket running through that space. So this will be right on the heart of Brian Statham Way. So again, this is conceptual, but the working groups that we've got pulling together on this development, include a lot of people from outside of Lancashire cricket, includes the MRG and obviously the internal teams as well. So more to follow on this, and if you have any questions, I'll be around all evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, President. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you all here. First time in a few years without COVID restrictions, so absolutely fantastic to have such a great turnout as well. I really appreciate you staying on in the evening. It's great to have so many people here. Thank you. I think I'm going to give a bit of an update on behalf of the executive team and the club on where we are with regards to EDI, equality, diversity and inclusivity. But just before I do that, I wanted to just echo a couple of things. Steve referenced the MRG there. I think it would be remiss of me if I didn't say that our job as an executive team would be 1,000 times harder if we didn't have the MRG both holding us to account and providing a true conduit of member concerns and issues that are raised with us that generally some of them would not be on our radar. So I'd just like to give a big shout out to Colin Gore as chair and the rest of the MRG for everything they do on behalf of all members at the club. So thank you. And then secondly, it's Mark Chilton was appointed in October as Director of Cricket Performance. As he's mentioned, this is his first AGM, and Angela Lowes is our new CFO. Angela, please stand up a second. She's Angela was 20 years at CFO at Sunderland Football Club. We're very lucky to have her and Mark, so welcome both to the executive team. So, the club has now launched a comprehensive EDI framework and action plan, and we feel that now is the right time for us to talk about some of the work that Lancashire Cricket has actually been doing over the past 18 months. And it kind of acknowledges the work that's already been done on gender diversity. We believe that we're, on gender diversity, particularly in our leadership area, we believe we are the most gender diverse club in the country. And it's something that we're quite proud of. But we have to do much, much better at making ourselves a less white organisation, and that's something that we've recognised. We're all aware, as the chair referenced, of Azim Rafiq's experiences and the evidence he gave to DCMS, which were shocking, and I don't think anybody could have really listened to that evidence. Whatever people say about him as an individual, I don't think anybody, whoever you are, deserved what he was put through. And I think it definitely was a shock to the game. And our journey had begun prior to the Rafiq evidence, but it was very clear that the Rafiq evidence gave a big signal to the game that the game has to do better. We have to be more inclusive, and we have to be accessible. And the crazy thing is, cricket, out of all the sports, and I'm biased about this, but really has a fantastic opportunity in certain communities, and we haven't done it enough as a game. We'll come on to it. We've got a very clear 10-point action plan, which is the top of agenda at every single board meeting. It's a standing item, and every single executive meeting. And in terms of the executive, I own that overall action plan with support from the team. But as the chair said, it's really important that Lancashire Cricket fully and really appropriately represent all of our communities in Manchester. Manchester is famous for celebrating difference, but as a game in cricket and in the Northwest, we haven't been so good there, and that's something that we need to do better, and it's a key part of the club's core values of welcoming. So I'm going to just briefly take you through our EDI journey now and what we're currently working on. So this kind of, for us, it really kind of started back in early 2020 with the death of George Floyd and the kind of launch of the Black Lives Matter movement in America, which really kind of came home to us more clearly during behind closed doors in July of that year, where we were hosting the West Indies here, and Jason Holder took the knee, and Michael Holding and Ebony Rainsford Brent gave some incredibly moving speeches live on Sky, and it became very, very clear that this was a massive issue in the UK, across the world, but particularly actually that there were questions that needed to be answered in cricket. And so a club working group was established at that point to start to explore where are we as a club, and what are the key areas that we need to prioritise and focus on. Shortly after that, this got escalated fully to board level early in 2021, so well over a year ago now. And next, in the spring of 2021, there was what's called an early day motion in the House of Commons, which was raised by two at that time senior backbench spokesmen from the Labour Party, and it basically called the ECB institutionally racist. It actually raised a number of question marks, which we as a club were really quite horrified that cricket had been called out in this way. And actually, this is way before the Azim Rafiq stuff. We challenged the ECB, we asked the question, and we were told there's nothing to see here. It's a couple of nutters, and there's actually nothing that we need to answer, that there's nothing serious. But one of the things that really struck out for me in that early day motion, this is back then, was that the last time at that point that the ECB had actually published a report on their approach to discrimination in the game was in 1997. I think that tells you everything you need to know on that particular point. Actions speak louder than words, so we could talk a lot about how we were going to tackle discrimination in cricket, and I think one of the first elements was it became very clear with the launch of our professional women setup, which was like a startup, that the opportunities for our women professionally in terms of training in that first season were not great. And certain things were brought to my attention that became really quite clear that, forget unconscious bias, but there was, in certain elements, there were experiences of conscious bias in terms of our women professionals. And it wasn't good enough. So we created a women's subgroup that started to meet monthly to actually hear all about the different areas of what was going well, what we were doing well as effectively a startup in the women's professional game, and what are the things we could do better. And whether that would be, for example, the ECB had approved mileage at 15p a mile for the professional women, and the men were getting 45, and I said, well, I think that's illegal. So we effectively are the only region that are paying the same mileage for our men that we do for our women. We are also paying effectively pay by the hour for our pay-as-you-play contracted players for training, which is something that we do for second 11 men's trialists, but we weren't doing, and the ECB weren't doing for the women's regional setup for trialists. So we've started to do a number of things there. Also, as Mark intimated, this year we will host more games here at Emirates Old Trafford than any other region, and it's something I'm proud of. And when we have double headers, particularly the men's away changing room is now the women's home changing room at Emirates Old Trafford, and it's something that we're pleased with the progress that we've made there. And I think particularly with the likes of through John Murphy and Jen Barden's support and David Thorley, we now have nearly 60 clubs across Lancashire that have fully formed women's sections. And the plans are to double those over the coming years. Then we brought in an external organisation called Inclusive Cultures. We needed external support, but we needed to take stock of where we were as an organisation. And there's a cliche that you can't mark your own homework. We needed an external view on this. But we were also keen that we were not going to support tokenism or small measures or knee-jerk reactions. I think you can be in danger in this space of coming out quickly and publishing a massive strategy that could be a mile wide but only an inch deep. And for us, this is a journey that we're going to be on for a very, very long time. And we might be at base camp at the moment, and we've got a lot to do. But we have to embrace that. If I look at the progress that we've made on gender balance, you know, in 2015, we had no women on our executive team and no women on the board. We now have 2 women on the board and 4 out of 7 on the executive team. As I said, the most gender balanced leadership group in cricket. We have to do much better from a BAME representation. And we needed to understand, take stock where we were, where are there any areas specific that we need to focus on. And then, of course, as was mentioned, the Rafiq evidence came out, and then suddenly the ECB went into knee-jerk mode, and there was a 12-point plan that they felt immediate pressure to publish. And I think there is a lot of pressure on, to be fair to the ECB, from external stakeholders and press to constantly ask questions, what have you done today? What have you done today? What have you done today? And for us, very much, we talked about our core pillar of welcoming within our values. This has to be embedded across our organisation. It has to be deep all the way through. We have to have, whether it be staff, whether it be players, whether it be members, whether it be customers, we have to represent all of the communities here in the Northwest, not just some of them. And that's going to take time, but it has to be there. It has to be changes that we make that are there forever. So, in terms of the last slide here, we took the ECB document and we created our own 10-point plan that was very specific to us, addressing key issues, focusing on recruitment. And I think we know our number one point is we have to move the dial quickly in terms of getting a more diverse workforce. And we have strict timelines to achieve that, but we have to, as I said, actions speak louder than words. It was clear with the EDI strategy from the ECB that we've got to maintain momentum. And we've rolled out our own dressing room culture survey led by Mark Chilton and John Abrahams, and we're now working with the ECB on a follow-up to that. And we created our own anti-discrimination campaign across recreational and professional cricket space. And training plays a key role here in education, but it's going to take us a while to change the culture and to embed our core values, as I've said. And this isn't just a topic for today that then just disappears. It's going to be something that has to be here for Lancashire cricket into the long term. And a framework is now in place, and we're recruiting a senior member of the team that can help activate that framework, and it's the right time to do that now. And the head of inclusion and engagement role is now in the process of being advertised, and we're hoping to get somebody who can really support us to accelerate our journey here. And I think finally, one thing I'd like to say is we can't do this on our own as an executive team. We need your support as members. I think from a cross-departmental perspective, something I've been proud of in the last few months is how all of our different departments at the club have come together to really support each other in this space. And also, particularly John Murphy and the work being done at the foundation, and Sandy in terms of focusing on those harder to reach communities. And I know that Chance to Shine Street has now had over 10,000 attendances in 2021. There's been 149 individual disability cricket sessions delivered across 20 school and community hub sites. And we've just got funding from the ECB to launch the brand new ACE programme, which is the Afro-Caribbean Growth Programme, with everybody Rainsford Grant and the ECB, Brent, and we're looking to launch that within the next couple of months. So there's a lot going on in our community space, and definitely the foundation have been leaders in this area, definitely. So I hope the presentation has given you an idea of the significant amount of work that actually has been going on. We haven't been ready to communicate. I think now we're in a place that we can communicate the framework that we're at. And to give you an assurance with everything that's gone on in the game, that the club is taking this very seriously. It's a standing agenda item at every board meeting and every exec meeting, and the executive team are all over this, and I own this as a clear objective, and that we're taking this very seriously. And finally, before we move on, we'd like to just share a short video which really shows the cross-departmental working that we've had to really look at how we can work better together to make ourselves more inclusive and to be more welcoming.
We are driven.
We are passion.
We are the fans.
We are the future.
We are equal.
We are Manchester.
We are a community.
We are here to win.
We are exceptional.
We are spirited.
We are powerful.
We are the Manchester Indians Cricket Club.
The Ashton Tigers Cricket Club. The Lancashire Disability Squad.
Gladway Cricket Club.
Didsbury Cricket Club.
Greenmount Cricket Club.
Haydock Cricket Club.
We are thunder.
We are Lancashire Lightning.
We are unified.
Thank you. Right. Can we now move on to some of the more substantive and elements of this agenda? And the most obvious one is the annual report of the board and accounts for the club ended the 31st of December 21, together with the report of the auditor. This is in two sections. Section 1 I'm going to ask the secretary to identify what questions have been put forward and which need to be answered, and then I'll invite the treasurer to formally propose the report. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to everybody who sent questions in advance of the meeting, both on the accounts and on other matters. It certainly does help in preparing some informed and detailed answers. Some of those answers to the questions will have been covered in the presentations. Others were very kind of niche and specific, and I've personally responded to all of those questions that were raised. But there were a number of questions which we felt, though, it was important that the wider membership heard the answers to, and that's what we're going to cover both on the finance section and later on. So there are a couple of questions of that ilk that were raised on the accounts, and I'm going to read the questions out now, and then Les will hopefully answer them for you. First question was on the accounts where it was discussed about the forecast that club has prepared. The question is, they're said to be prudent? Can any figures be shared? How has the first quarter gone versus forecast? Have forecasts been adjusted since the start of the year? What's the impact of losing the Foo Fighters concert? We have £3.5 million worth of cash, but £3.1 million worth of loans due to be repaid by the end of 2023. Just how tight are our cash flows and banking covenants given the extra capital spend? So quite a lot there. So hopefully Les can summarise his answer for you all.
Okay, thanks Lee, and good evening everybody. I'm going to answer the question in 4 parts. The first part is to do with our forecast and budgeted profit for 2022. So we're budgeting an operating profit of over £3 million for 2022 and a profit before tax at the bottom line of over £1 million. That was a budget that was set for the whole year. Well, clearly we're well into the year now, so we're continually looking at that. Our current view is that we still think we're going to be okay for those forecasts, and that's despite the loss of the Foo Fighters concert that was referenced in the question and referenced earlier. So we're not certain about meeting budgets and forecasts, but we're at the moment confident. Secondly, cash flow. Cash flow is good at the moment, but we've got some challenges to come. We're well covered for our repayments of debt in 2022. We've got quite a bit of funding to do for the new development, and I'll come on to that on a subsequent question. But at the moment, cash flow is good. All areas have been reviewed by us as a board and by the bank and by the auditors, and therefore that gives some comfort to members that we've got some security in everything that's being said. Finally, about covenants that was mentioned as well. We have a a reasonable margin of comfort on covenants. When the covenants are set, the bank deliberately does not want them to be too tight. They give us a margin of comfort. That margin of comfort means that the covenants are not too tight. We have confidence that we'll be able to meet the covenants over the course of this year. That's it from me, Lee, on that question. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. The second of the two questions, both these questions have come from Alan Hyam, and as the previous finance director of the club, it's always nice to know that at least one person's taken the time to look in detail at the accounts, because I'm sure Angela would agree there's a lot of time and effort goes into them. So thanks Alan, for the two questions. Second question is on capital spend. How much is the club expecting to spend on each of the Red Rose developments and on the Farrington development?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. As far as the new stand is concerned, we've just finalised the fixed price construction contract at just over £14 million. There will be a few other strands of expenditure, but that by a long way is the majority of the new development on the new stand. That will be funded by a mix of our own capital, new commercial contracts and new borrowing. And it's that new borrowing element that led us to want to review that £30 million debt cap limit that is referenced in the rule changes later on in the meeting. So that's a new stand. Farrington is quite different. Farrington is a project that's primarily being led and funded by Lancashire County Council. So although we hope to benefit from it very substantially, as far as capital spend is concerned, it's a matter primarily for the County Council. But we will be incurring some fit-out expenditure and some operating costs, but at a much smaller level than in respect of the new stand. Thanks.
There was one final late question that came through, and somebody asked, I think it was David Maguire asked why the miscellaneous costs had risen by £600,000. Well, miscellaneous income had also risen by £700,000. So overall, it'd been a kind of net increase, and that's predominantly due to the concert that we held last year, where there was no concert in the previous year.
Thank you. Les, can I invite you as Treasurer to formally propose the adoption of the accounts?
Thank you, Sir Howard. I'd like to now formally propose the adoption of the report of the board on the financial statements for the year ending 31st December 2021, together with the auditor's report on those accounts.
Yep, very happy to second that proposal.
Can I therefore put that formally as a proposition to the meeting, that the report of the board and the annual report and accounts for the year ending 31st of December 21, together with the auditor's report on those accounts, is approved? Is that approved? Thank you very much indeed.
Just to finalise that, we had proxy votes in advance, and for all of the votes that were cast during the course of the meeting, we had 202 proxy votes, and that's what I'll report the results of those votes for each of the motion that's been discussed. But clearly there was a clear significant approval there, and of the proxy votes, 100% of proxy votes approved. So clearly that is a motion that's passed. Thank you.
Can I ask Sarah Tompkins to formally propose that the re-election to the board of Rachel Downey be approved? Sarah?
Yes, I'd like to formally propose the re-election of Rachel Downey to the board. As the chair has already alluded, she's a massive support on the development side of cricket and of Lancashire. So I'd like to propose her, please.
And I would second that proposal.
Can I therefore put that proposition to the meeting, that the re-election... Sorry? What, the second? No. Oh, sorry. Could
well, I mean, by all means, you tell me now. But I mean, I would like to know what's coming on.
Well, what I thought Sarah did was formally propose the re-election of Rachel Downey and made the point that, in her opinion, based on her experience, like the rest of the board, Rachel had played an insignificant part in the work of the board, most notably the project development.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I therefore put that as a proposition to the rest of the meeting? Can I formally ask for your endorsement of Rachel's reappointment? Thank you very much indeed. And with the proviso...
Yeah, of the proxy votes, 96.5% of proxy votes supported the motion, so that's again passed. Thank you.
Andy, can I ask you to formally propose Navin?
Yeah, having already introduced Navin Singh to the membership and the AGM, I would now like to formally propose the election to the board of Navin Singh.
Sarah, will you second?
Yes, I'd like to second that proposal.
Can I therefore put the proposition to the meeting that the election of Navin Singh to the board is approved? Can all those who vote in favour please show? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed.
That's supported by 95% of the proxy votes voting in favour.
Now to election of vice presidents. Can I propose that Paul Allott, whom we all know and love, as vice president of the club be endorsed? And can I invite John to second?
I second that proposal, Sir Howard.
Are those in favour of Paul being... Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's 86% of the proxy votes supported that proposal too, so again that's passed. Thank you.
Les, can I ask you to promote?
Yes, thank you, Sir Howard. The nomination of Lee Morgan as Vice President is documented in the note that went out to the members and which I drafted and I think speaks for itself. I think everybody in the club over the last 17 years will know how important Lee has been to the club, how critical he has been to the survival of the club. I think the words speak for themselves, so I've got no hesitation in proposing Lee Morgan as the Vice President of the club.
I would absolutely reiterate what Les said. I think I've worked with Lee since 2007. Lee, myself and our beloved late chairman David Hodgkiss set up the foundation I think 15 years ago, and we've worked together since then. Lee's passion and pride in all things Lancashire cricket shines through in absolutely everything he does, so delighted to second that. Plus he sat next to me, so I can't really say anything different.
All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much indeed. Well done, Lee.
Thank Thank you, everyone. Just to support that, 94% of the proxy votes also supported that. So thank you.
Only 94%.
There were 12 people who didn't.
Very good. Thank you very much. Can I invite Les to introduce the item on the reappointment of the auditors?
Thank you, Sir Howard. I'd like to propose that Hurst & Co are appointed as auditors of the club until the conclusion of the general meeting, which considers their report on the annual accounts of the club for the current year ended 31st December 2022.
John?
And that proposal seconded by me, Sir Howard.
Thank you. Can we therefore formally propose that to the meeting? All those in favour? With the proxy votes?
Yeah, the proxy votes, 100% of proxy votes supported the motion. So the auditors are the most popular people here tonight.
Biggest vote for the auditors. Right, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Rule changes. James, can I ask you to introduce the amendment to Rule 17.6?
Yeah. I'm not going to read out the formal proposal. It's been provided with all the paperwork that came out to members, so I think we take the proposal as read, but I'd quite like to quickly introduce it if I can. I think this is a really important change that we're delighted to bring forward to you as a group of members. It probably came out of a follow-up conversation that took place after the AGM last year, when one of our fellow members, Alan Hyam, contacted myself and Lee, and we had a really productive discussion around issues of this kind. And I think The resolution has come together following some proposals that 4 members put forward for some change. And it's been a brilliant example, the work done to come up with this as a really good solution for us to move forward, to get member services as a key item for a board member. To see our MRG, Colin and his colleagues have been fully involved in the discussions around this. Alan is the founder, one of the founders of an organisation called the Cricket Supporters Association, and they've worked well with MRG and also alongside Lee, who those 3 people have put a huge amount of effort to come up with this, and it's a really cracking example of collaboration to have people with potentially differing views at the start of the discussion come together, understand different perspectives, and come up with what I think is a really productive solution. So thank you, Colin and MRG. I can see Alan over there. Alan, thank you for everything you've done, and Lee, thanks for your work on this. So I'm delighted to put forward the rule change as a resolution to members.
James. Andy?
And I'll happily second that proposal.
All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, all the earlier resolutions needed a simple majority. Rule changes need a 2/3 majority, but with what's just been supported in the room, plus a 98.5% support from the proxy forms, again, that motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you. It's down to me to introduce Rule 13.1. I think the explanation in the covering information is clear. We need to actually introduce a degree of flexibility in the way in which we respond, as we've had to over the last couple of years, to different mechanisms for being able to ensure meetings like this can be socially distanced, or meetings can actually take place at all in some cases. So the intention here is not to change the requirement for quority. Really, it's to be able to ensure that can be delivered in the most flexible way, having regard to all the circumstances which we know only too well can actually be impact because of what's happened over the last few years. Can I also ask James to second this resolution?
Very happy to second that resolution, Sir Howard.
And can I ask for your formal endorsement? All those in favour of that rule change? Thank you very much. And
thank you, everyone, and that was supported by 90% of the proxy votes, or 98% of the proxy votes.
And Les, can I ask you to introduce the amendment to Rule 4221?
Yeah, thank you, Sir Howard. The essence of this proposal is to deal with our debt cap. Our debt ceiling is currently set at £30 million under the club rules. Our forecasts show that the peak borrowing on our development plans would reach 32 or possibly 33 million pounds if this proposal can be accepted by members, so that provide a bit of headroom, and so that we don't continually come back to members. The proposal is to raise that debt ceiling to 40 million, but members should be assured that it will be over my dead body that we go to 40 million. So I'd like to propose this resolution, please.
On that basis. No, thanks very much, Les. And who is seconding it? It's me. I'm due to set that proposal. And therefore, can I formally ask the approval of this meeting to that rule change, a very necessary rule change, if I might say so?
Thank you again. That's again supported heavily by 94.4% of the proxy votes. So again, that's passed. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, can I ask you to introduce the amendment to Rule 6.4?
Again, as James quite rightly said, you'll have had the detail of this. Effectively, this rule is something that happens more or less automatically here at Lancashire County Cricket Club. It's just to ensure that members' behaviour just continue, so that Emirates Old Trafford is a welcoming place for current members and for new members as well.
Sarah?
I'll second this resolution.
Thank you. All those in favour of this rule change, please show. Thank you very much indeed.
And 98% of the proxy votes also supported it. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to any other business. Andy, I think this is the last.
Yeah, this is the last section, I believe, of any other business. I think we may have one or two questions to mop up, Lee, and any other business. But just to incentivise you not to overdo this section, the beer and other drinks at the bar are now free. So you're all eligible for a free drink. But the longer this goes on, the less likely that is to be meaningful. So Lee, have you got any? Sorry, I'm being flippant. Please do ask questions. But Lee, I think you've got one or two.
Yeah. There's a couple of questions that came in. One from David Lane and another from James Kent, and they're very similar questions. And we'll provide one answer. But I'll raise both the questions, and then we'll have one answer to them both. One of the club's stated key objectives is to grow the membership. What targets have the board set in this regard? I.e., what would the board regard as success in terms of numbers of members and over what period? What are the key specific actions that the board are or will be taking in order to grow the membership and achieve this target? That was from David Lane. And from James Kent, at last year's AGM, members were told of a project to increase the membership, including contacting lapsed members to find out why they left, what actions have taken place, how many former members were contacted, what have we learnt, and what does the club plan to do this year to increase membership levels? And Liz Cooper is going to answer that question.
Okay, it's an important question, so I'm going to read it out, so forgive me. So I'll break the questions down because it was a long question. So first of all, the actions that have taken place to grow the membership. Currently, we are in the research phase of this process, speaking to a wider pool of supporters and visitors of Lancashire Cricket and Emirates Old Trafford. This includes members, lapsed members, ticket buyers, concert bookers and other event goers, i.e. Christmas and C&E guests, as well as the recreational cricket participants. We've also shared the survey through the ECB network, Sixes Cricket and the local council. We have had a total of 2,500 surveys completed. Second part of the question was how many former members were contacted. In total, over 750 lapsed members were sent the survey. Lapsed members were defined as lapsed in the last 3 years as a guide for the most engaged. What we have learned, research so far via the focus groups are currently in development. However, a more flexible, diverse and easier to understand membership category have been the key highlights from the research. We'll produce and publish the research once we've finished it. And then lastly, what does the club plan to do? Once all the research has been collated, we will then assess the best course of action based on the feedback from our wider supporter base and local community. The club's target is to grow the membership up to 10,000 by 2030. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. The next question we had was from Max Holmes. The net satisfaction rating for the ticket office from the survey hosted by the Cricket Supporters Association last season had a net satisfaction of -47%, with over half of the responders rating the service as awful. Often it took publicity from the Lancashire Action Group social media channel before member complaints were actioned. What commitments will management make to members about service levels this season? And Angela Hodson's going to answer this one. Thanks, Ange.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Evening all. Firstly, just on the survey, so we can't really comment on the results of the survey which the club had not been party to. Nor is aware of the sample that was surveyed or the sizes involved or all the questions asked. However, we can comment on the underlying concerns, which we're very much aware of from last year. Last year was totally unprecedented. No one in the organisation or anywhere else for that matter had ever dealt with a global pandemic before. As a result of this, the ticket office were dealing with an incredibly challenging situation where the goalposts were constantly changing. Despite regular communications with our members due to COVID, it resulted in us receiving an unprecedented number of calls and emails coming into the ticket office. which included queries about all sorts of different things, COVID, clarification on changes in how members booked, because of us having to work to socially distance plans and reduce capacities, and then there were other operational changes that we had to deal with as well. We also have a third-party support call centre as well, Key Tickets. They also found themselves in a really similar situation, which really compounded our challenge as well, as they too were dealing with an overwhelming amount of calls. We absolutely recognise members' frustrations around this in not being able to contact the ticket office directly and us not being able to respond quickly enough to our members' queries. And I think as per last year, you know, we would really like to apologise for the fact that that happened. I can honestly assure you that the ticket office staff, many of them that are stood at the back of the room today, they worked tirelessly during that time. They worked additional hours and days in a really, really stressful situation. And I saw firsthand, you know, how that impacted them. We did source as much additional casual resources quickly as we possibly could to support and to help the team. But unfortunately, that also takes time to get people trained and managed and to support in the right way. And it just wasn't enough because of the constant demand that was coming in. So we as a club were very aware of the overwhelming situation that we were in. The MRG kept us very much updated on the feedback that they were receiving as well from hundreds of members. This was included during the surgery points that we were able to deliver. And we were feeding these back constantly. You know, they were feeding the information constantly back to us as a club as well. Unfortunately, it was just a really, really unique situation that was incredibly challenging to deal with and overcome at the time. You know, I hope we never have to repeat that. We will have certainly learned an incredible amount this last year in how we would deal with it, you know, maybe differently in the future, but hopefully it will never come to that again. I just wanted to touch on one thing as well. I've been made aware this week that some of our members haven't received their membership cards in time for the first game of the season. Unfortunately, I just want to kind of point out that there was a printing error with the QR code on some of the membership cards. It was a small amount of them. The third-party supplier responsible has sincerely apologised for that mistake. Frustratingly, it did create a delay in some of those members receiving those cards, so I just wanted to apologise for that in advance. The team have received a number of calls this week and have done their best to provide solutions as well. And that included putting tickets into memberships accounts so that they could download them or they could print them off. Otherwise, we've been able to support on the day by people coming to get tickets. So I just wanted to kind of apologise for anybody that's been impacted by that. And just please be reassured that as a team, we are working really hard every single day to deliver at the highest standard that we possibly can to our members. It is a small team and they're doing their absolute best to do that. I know they all care passionately about the club and about the members in delivering the best service that they can. And we'll continually monitor that throughout the season to make sure that we're doing it and whether we have to adapt or change anything that we have to do. Okay, so thank you.
Thanks, Ange. Before... Have we got a mic? Sorry.
It was very heartening to hear that plea on behalf of every member, but let's not forget the staff and the stress and the strain that they come under. There was stress from telephones, people like myself who loved this club and would never ever do any harm to it, but to see people screaming at them because they couldn't get their tickets. And I'd like to thank this man here. When we ring and he answers, we say, thank God, Phil's here. But it will be resolved. This person will resolve it. But you have got to give them support. Anything other than that is nothing. It's just empty words.
Thanks very much.
I'd just like to finish with one point. During the winter, I contracted a serious illness, Parkinson's, but the staff in the ticket office carried me through it. They arranged for things with my wife for tickets and all the rest. And she's a member now. She takes me to every game here. I haven't held her hand that much in 50 years. But I'm not going to go on because I don't like that going on.
Thank you.
But thanks very much to everyone concerned with that. But never in any organisation make it your business to speak to your staff. They're the ones who win the match on the pitch and in the admin office. And for goodness sake, build them a proper office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's just one final question, and then we will open to the floor. So just patience for one more question, then we'll give everybody a chance. This final question was from Alan Hyam, and the question was, there have been a few leaks from the ECB reported in the media about ideas to change the county cricket system. For example, cancelling 6 counties from professional sport, or fining counties for poor pitches despite forcing them to play first-class cricket outside the summer months. It looks like decisions are going to be taken in the autumn after the ECB's high-performance review reports back. Can the chair confirm what the club knows about the process, and will the club agree to consult its members on any significant reforms before committing the club to any proposed solution?
Yeah, I think I mentioned in my speech, so I addressed this. I mean, the Andrew Strauss review is just kicking off now, and there are no proposals, concrete ideas, or anything like that on the table. We are getting regular updates. We're having monthly meetings at the very least with the ECB on all of these changes that are coming through. So we'll keep you up to date as real things come through, but at the moment, anything you're reading is just pure press speculation. There is nothing concrete out there at all. If anything that requires proper consultation comes out, we'll make sure we consult with you properly.
Thank you. Any other questions which members might have? Right. Would you like to go first? I'll go in. Just wait till...
so I'll just reiterate. I mean, the point was it would be terrible to cut the county game from 14 to 10 games.
My name is David. I come from Blackpool. Please can we keep the 14 games, county games? We don't want it down to 10 games. It'd be shocking that. Yeah. There'd only be one promotion, relegation. That'd be no good, that. Be stupid.
Thank you.
That is not a formal proposal. As I said, there's nothing formal at all in that regard at the moment. That was just something that was in the media, but there's nothing actually concrete along those lines at all.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the subject of membership, my name's Alan Shepherd. I'm in Blackpool. I first became a member in the very early 70s. Since that time, we've seen membership go up and peak at around 15,000 in 1990, and then fall away to the very low levels it's been recently. There has been quite a bit of apathy amongst the members, because there is very much a feeling which has been accelerated since we've had a board of directors rather than a committee that we used to have, because we find now that generally it's a them and us, and a lot of people, they wouldn't know the majority of you people on the board if they fell over them. The members of the board don't seem to circulate amongst their rank and file members, speak to them or look to the views. The only person who's on the board here now, whoever seems to circulate amongst the members and speak to them, is John on the end there, one of our ex-players. I think you might improve the situation between the members and the club if some of you made a little bit of effort to circulate amongst the members and speak to them on lots of little subjects, you know.
Yeah.
It would help.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. Oh, sorry. My name's Roger Wilson. I've been a member for many, many years. So good evening, Chair and the Board. Further to the first point that was raised under the any other business, you talked about membership. Looking back, this is follow on from last year's report about where have all the members gone and what you want to do over the next coming years up to 2030. Now, forgive me, I may have missed this, but I don't recall seeing any numbers mentioned in the report, annual report and accounts as to number of members or the category of members. If what you're projecting is to have any meaning or to be meaningful in any sort of way, you talk about a membership of 10,000 in the year 2030. Surely we need to see the facts and figures in the annual reports and accounts. Now, as I say, I do apologise if I've missed it, but I didn't see it in the annual reports and accounts. And as part two of that question, if it's not there, can we ensure that it's in the annual reports and accounts in the future?
Thank you for the question. We'll pick that up. I wasn't aware it wasn't in the accounts. If it isn't, we'll make sure it is. But just for clarity, we have around 5,000 members at the moment.
Thank you. Gentleman at the behind. Thank you.
Hello there, my name's Geoffrey Simon. I have a three-part question, but I hope it can be dealt with quickly. Firstly, the matchday guide for the Gloucester game, and every matchday guide I've seen states under tickets and timings, please note tickets can only be purchased online. This is not true, but it seems to deter people who can't use the internet. It seems to deter people coming to the County Championship games. Why do I see this statement at every matchday guide when it simply isn't true, and tickets can always be bought on the day at the ticket office?
Ange, you take that? Do you wanna...
That's question one. I'll get, question two is I've read about the proposal at Farrington, which says that there may be T20 games at Farrington, and the proposed capacity for the Farrington site is 5,000, yet in 2019 Lancashire broke their T20 non-roses match attendance record 3 times, 13,710, 14,752 and 15,196 against Durham, Derbyshire and Leicestershire respectively. How are Lancashire going to fit this court into a pint pot? So many tens of thousands, if 15,000 might turn up at the T20 game, and yet the capacity at Farrington is only going to be 5,000. And thirdly, how long would it take, despite Les Platt laying his life on the line, how long might it actually take to pay off a debt of £30 million plus? It seems to me that the interest on such a debt would be financially crippling. So how long does the club expect that it would take to actually clear a debt of £30+ million?
Shall I take the first point first? And that was on the match day guide, wasn't it? Just to kind of go back to that question and why we put that on there in terms of online. Obviously, it is the most efficient way to book. So going online is quick, it's efficient, and obviously, in terms of kind of impact on the day, on ticket office, we don't want queues there, so we're advising people if they get them in advance, then that is the best possible way to do that. Obviously, you know, as members, you are aware you can contact the ticket office. Tickets are available on the day as well, but we do it to ensure that it is the most efficient process for everybody that we can possibly have. Hope that helps to answer it.
Thanks, Ange. If we move on to the second part of the question before we get to Les, and that is, yeah, I think the key part of the Farrington element is that it can host T20. I don't think it's a plan to be the primary host for T20, so I think in the same way that we're hosting, Blackpool's hosting this year, so I think Farrington is, it can, but it's not the primary plan for it to host first-class T20 games. And I think then if we probably hand on to Les.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. I didn't catch all of the detail of the third part of the question. So just to clarify, is it about our plans for how we can reduce our debt levels over the long term? Was that
Yes,
the point of the question?
that's exactly right. How long it will take us to pay down the debt.
The
Okay.
interest-
And the interest, the gentleman thought the interest could be crippling, is his words, I think.
Yeah, and the answer to the question, I think, is that the longer term forecasts show that the debt will peak at around 33 million that I mentioned earlier, and then slowly decline over the subsequent years. The biggest risk factor that the members and we wrestle with all the time, and the members need to be aware of, is international cricket in the long term, because international cricket is the biggest driver of revenue for the club each year. If we continue to host international cricket in the long term, I think members can be confident that those debt levels will reduce over the long term. If there is a change in that, either because we don't get awards of cricket or because Test match cricket loses its allure, loses its broadcasting revenue over the long term, that would have a detrimental effect. None of that is in evidence at the moment. All the evidence at the moment is that we will continue to host international matches over the medium to long term, and that broadcasting revenues will hold up to finance the game. And therefore, I think we can be reasonably confident that the debt levels will reduce over the next few years if we don't take on any further new development. So based upon the current status quo, current plans, those debt levels will reduce from that peak of 32 or 33 million steadily over the next 10 years. It won't reduce to nil, but they'll reduce substantially.
Thanks, Les. If I can just add one quick point, I think one thing that's different, say, if you compare us to Edgbaston, that has got similar levels of debt, but they've invested in a lot of infrastructure in terms of a large pavilion and stand, is all of our commercial debt is linked to EBITDA generating revenue, so EBITDA generating buildings. So effectively, we generate operating profits and cash flow from the point and from the existing hotel. To put it in perspective, the hotel alone generates best part of £2 million, which is not far away from the salary cap. So I think one of the key things is these buildings that we've built that generate non-cricket revenue that actually enables us to support cricket, but also service our debt levels. So I think that's an important point to make as well.
Thank you. I'm going to take one more question. This gentleman here.
Thank you. My name is Richard Fletcher. I was really encouraged to hear what the board's doing about the fallout of the sort of racism scandal, moving on from that, and also about increasing membership. But perhaps just a very specific thing. What is the club doing to engage in people immediately around us, such as sort of Furswood, Whalley Range and Old Trafford itself? Because there's perhaps a big BAME ethnic minority community in that area, but I'm not seeing them at the cricket games. And to me, they're people who, because they live so close, would be really easy to get as, first of all, regular cricket goers and hopefully going forward, members.
Yes. I think Liz can probably speak a bit more to this, or John Murphy can as well, but I think the foundation are doing some significant work at the moment, working closely with the MRG in terms of looking very specifically at our local communities and specifically immediate vicinities. So it is something that is very, very much on our radar. I don't know if you want to add to that, Liz. Liz?
I mean, if you have a group specifically that we can talk to, we'd be very happy to do that. We've got community focus groups happening across recreational cricket at the minute, but there's 340 community cricket clubs. So we can't do 340 focus groups, but we have league support, particularly in Liverpool as well. So if you do have a particular club that would be happy for us to come and talk to, we'd be happy to do that. We will produce a report on this as well as part of our EDI, just to add to that.
Right, thanks very much indeed. I'm going to call it a close though. Can I thank all of you for your patience, your resilience, and also can I thank my colleagues who spent the evening abroad and playing a part in making sure tonight's event has gone off successful. Safe journey home, and I now formally declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much indeed.
And please go and get yourself your free drink on behalf of the chairman. He's got his credit card out.
It looks like in 5.